have a feeling some of these really aren't going to work out particularly well. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing this author mix-up challenge kind of thing. I saw this on Andrew's channel, and I know he commented that he got it from Words in Time, so I will link both of their videos down in the description below. But this sounded like a lot of fun. I haven't done like a tag or a challenge in a while, so I figured this would be a fun one. So the way this works, if you haven't seen one already, is I have 2 bowls, and I have 20 authors in one, and then I have well-known works from those authors in the other bowl. And I'm going to grab an author, grab a series, and we're going to see how well I think it would either work or not work. Now, there'll be some similar to Andrew because we have pretty similar reading taste. I am just doing fantasy, though, as well as these are, for the most part, like all my favorites are in here, but I also put in some wild cards and some authors or series I'm not really a fan of, just because I thought that would be a fun thing to see, like, how bad I think another series I like might turn out if one of them wrote it. So with no further ado, let's jump into it. All right, so let's mix up here. So first one is Daniel Abraham, and writing The Demon Cycle, which is by Peter V. Brett. So that's already like very, very, very different styles between the Long Price Quartet I've read of Daniel Abraham, and I read his new Kithamar book, Age of Ash, as well. Very, very different style. So, like, I think he potentially could write something like The Demon Cycle, but it would have to be incredibly different. Like, the way it's written, I just don't feel like it would work at all because it's such a wildly different style. But I'd be curious because the Demon Cycle does have a plot, and I know it gets panned for a lot of fair things, but the overall plot and the way it ties together at the end I thought worked really, really well. And Abraham I found is a master of tying things in. Also, with the Demon Cycle starting as kind of almost like an anthology, I feel like Abraham could work that in well. So it would be wildly different, but I would read that. I think that would be interesting to see. So not terrible, even though very, very different styles. Interesting first one. All right, let's go next. Almost got 2 here. All right, so you have Brent Weeks writing Long Price Quartet. No, okay. I like Lightbringer a lot, but I cannot imagine. Long Price Quartet's one of those things, like, it's hard to imagine anyone else writing it because it was so very Abraham, and it really showed me what his style is just with that series. I can't imagine Brent Weeks writing it. I mean, there'd be a lot more quips and humor, and the twists might not work quite as well. It probably would focus a lot more on the magic system, I'm guessing, too, but I don't think I would want to read that. That's like I said, I liked Lightbringer. That's all I've read from Brent Weeks, and it's a series I really enjoyed, and I also think it gets panned for some fair reasons, but I thought it was a really good series overall. But I can't imagine that. I don't think that would work at all. All right, Terry Pratchett writing Oh no! Terry Pratchett writing The Obsidian Path, which is by Michael R Fletcher. That is, oh my gosh, that has to be the most perfect pick. I can't imagine it because The Obsidian Path is way darker than I feel like Terry Pratchett would go. But, like, there are definitely some moments, some of, like, the humor or the aspects that I feel like Pratchett could go on, but that's another one of where it would be completely unrecognizable and probably a lot more humorous, but I can't really imagine what that series written by Terry Pratchett would be. And with a lot of the stuff being set up, that's not so much Pratchett's style. He more does books that, even if they're ongoing, are more kind of standalone. So I don't think that would really work, but man, it would be hilarious to try that. So that might be my favorite pick, even though we've barely started. Let's see. Let's see what's next. All right, we have Lloyd Alexander. Not as well known, but primarily a children's fantasy author. He wrote the Prydane Chronicles, and I read like a YA book he did when I was younger too. Afterwards, but it was one of my wild cards I put in here. writing Faithful and the Fallen. Now that's interesting, because Prydane, despite being, for kids, there were children's novels from like the 60s, is Welsh-based. So I know Faithful and the Fallen is more Celtic, but I feel like that kind of story is something that Alexander would be comfortable with and could work with. But what's going to be very, very different. So now I'm picturing like Faithful and the Fallen written for a younger audience, and I think you could, without taking out a ton, you could maybe make that work. So that is interesting. It's Prydane does deal with like young boy who's supposed to like save everybody from this like evil, except it's specifically like, oh, now that I think about it, so Prydane too, because it's children's novels, is kind of written where like the books are supposed to have like kind of like life lessons, and with Faithful and the Fallen, you know, the whole truth and courage, that kind of thing, I think that'd be really interesting. I don't think Lloyd Alexander is still alive, but if he tried to rewrite Faithful and the Fallen as more of like for a younger audience, I actually think that could work. That is a series that I think could work in that space, even though it is adult fantasy. So I think that actually wouldn't be too bad. I think that could work. It'd be very different, but I think it could work. All right, next up we have Stephen R. Donaldson writing, I keep getting multiples, A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, I'd probably like that more, to be honest. So I read the first Thomas Covenant Chronicles, the trilogy by Stephen R. Donaldson, which I quite enjoyed. It took me a little bit to get into, but I thought it was handled really, really well. And there's definitely, he's got, you know, some darker themes, so I think he would do things really differently. But as you know, this was one of the ones I put in for fun too, to see. But I'd read that. It'd be done, for one. It would have been finished, and I don't really like the way George R. R. Martin writes, so I'd be willing to give that a shot for sure. So I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'd definitely be willing to give that a shot. All right, John Gwynne. We keep getting. I haven't picked the same author in their series yet, but I keep getting right after. John Gwynne writing Malison. Oh man, that is another one. I feel like these matchups are working out really well, even though they're random, because those are some polar opposite styles. And I really enjoy John Gwynne, but his very fast-paced, more kind of simplistic sounds negative, and I don't mean it that way, but it's more, a lot of it's kind of, it's the classic fantasy, almost sword and sorcery feel, where good versus evil. There's some other stuff like with Faithful and the Fallen, and I mean in his new series too, it's a little bit grittier, so to speak, but still kind of following a more simple classic fantasy kind of feeling thing. With what Malison is, I don't see that really working out. It would not be the same. Malison was a hard series for me because I recognize it as being an amazing series and one of the like biggest accomplishments in fantasy, but I didn't always enjoy my time reading it. Whereas I enjoy my time reading Faithful and the Fallen a lot more, for sure. So I think that'd be interesting, but I don't really think that would work just because the style is incredibly different. I don't think Malison would be what it is if John Gwynne wrote it. It's just, I think that one's too different. All right, next we have Brandon Sanderson writing The Wheel of Time. Oh, come on! You're cheating, random grabs. Brandon Sanderson writing The Wheel of Time. How would that work out? Well, I mean, I feel like everybody knows he finished The Wheel of Time, and there's some people didn't like it. I think he did as good a job as could have been done. Wasn't perfect, but it was never going to be perfect. As far as writing the whole series, it would definitely be different, but I think it's something that I would read. It would feel like a very different series. I do enjoy the stuff he's written. I feel like he would have done a lot of stuff. There might have been like more action parts, but at the same time, I think he would have dealt into some other plot lines as well. Knowing that was one of his big inspirations too, I think it's something that he could write a series like that. Stormlight is the long epic series, but is incredibly different, so I wouldn't really put it in the same like category of style, but I think he could do it. Like I said, he proved to me that he could do something like that when he finished the series, and I think did, like I said, as good a job as could have been done. I don't think anybody would have done a better job. All right. George R. Martin, here we go, writing Crown of Stars. Oh, now that is interesting because reading Crown of Stars, it does, I've said before, Crown of Stars by Kate Elliott, which is right here. It does have kind of a similar feel as Martin's work, and also does some like world building style, like the Wheel of Time, and then kind of some Hobbit treatment of characters. So there's definitely, even though, I mean, that series also started in the 90s, and I think most of this other series just had started around the same time, but it definitely has some elements that reminded me of some of that. So I'm not really a fan of the way that Martin writes. His writing style is really what gets me. I think Crown of Stars would absolutely be something in his wheelhouse, though. It is kind of done as like almost an alternate history with fantasy elements, and, you know, with A Song of Ice and Fire being his thing, which is kind of like alternate history with fantasy elements. I think that would be something in his wheelhouse. I don't think I would like it as much as the way Kate Elliott wrote it, because I like her style more, but I think he could do it. I think it is in his wheelhouse. It is a topic, and it hurts me to say. I was planning on being like, oh, Martin would have ruined this. So this works out because I think he could write it. There's some stuff that definitely has a similar feel. So I think he could write it. And there would, a lot of the same aspects that he would write in that kind of story are already there. So I honestly think that would work, which I was hoping to get to bash on him a little bit, but I honestly think that could work. All right. This is in the wrong bucket. Hold on. Let me fix this. One of the series got in the author buckets. So I just found the other one. I'm going to swap them around. And I'm going to try again. All right. Mark Lawrence writing. How many do I have to grab every time? Mistborn. That is interesting. So I do really like Mark Lawrence. The style, once again, incredibly different. And the kind of the magic system, from what I gathered, is really not something that Mark Lawrence writes. I don't know if I've only read the first book, The Ancestor, but none of his other ones are, like, they have some fantasy elements, but it's not usually like huge, like modern, you know, hard magic systems like Sanderson does. So, like, story-wise, I think Mark Lawrence could write a compelling story, but I don't think it would be one of the big reasons Mistborn, I feel like, took off is specifically the magic system, and I don't think we would get that kind of magic system. So I think it would be like more of like a Mistborn-esque story with the magical elements really, really tamed down. It'd probably just be more like people could control metal in general, and that was it. I think would be more something he would do, because delving into a really hard magic system is not something I've seen Lawrence do, so it'd be really different, but I don't think it'd be quite the same, because, like I said, Mistborn and Sanderson in general, I feel like one of his hallmarks is his magic systems. So it's kind of what I think there. All right, let's grab. So we have Kate Elliott writing Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. Ooh, that's a hard one. So I really like Kate Elliott, and I love Crown of Stars, and I also loved Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And it's one of those things, I do feel like she could do it, but the way Tad Williams wrote those books, I feel like is such a huge part of how I enjoyed it. So that's a tough one, because it's two authors I enjoy who wrote series that I enjoy. I feel like it wouldn't have been quite the same. I think some things would have been more blatantly darker had Kate Elliott written it. Because Kate Elliott's not like an overly dark author by any means, but it more kind of like realistic darkness. And Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn had some dark elements, but they were very understated and more implied than anything. But that overall kind of story, I feel like Kate Elliott could work with very well. But that's such a hard one, because it was, so once again, it's hard to look at some of these series that I love both and think about somebody else writing them, because I just don't feel like they're ever going to be the same. So I don't know. I think it could work, but specifically the way Tad Williams, it's his writing style is what immediately got me hooked on those books. And the story is great, and the characters I like too, but it was his writing style that immediately got me hooked. So it would be hard to have anyone else write that. All right, next up. My gosh, I've got like 3. Okay, there we go. I should have picked better paper. Okay, so Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman, another wild card here, writing First Law. First Law is a D&D campaign. I had a lot of problems with First Law, so like in story-wise, it might have actually helped, but I feel like with Weiss and Hickman, you're not gonna get the whole thing that made First Law what it is, which is the character work, which, even though I'm not a huge fan of the series, I agree the character work is phenomenal. And Weiss and Hickman definitely know how to write great characters. There's still a lot of characters I love from their stuff and from Dragonlance. But that would be another one where it would be such a different story. It wouldn't be anything resembling First Law. I feel like if they wrote something and it was their take on First Law, I don't feel like anyone would know unless they were told. So I don't think it would really work from that perspective, because it's just way too different. All right. Robin Hobb. What are you going to write me, Robin Hobb? Writing The Poppy War. I'm sorry. I had to put it in here. Robin Hobb writing The Poppy War. Like, I think I would have enjoyed that book then. I feel like that's definitely something with like a tortured character who makes a lot of dumb decisions and ends up getting really, really involved in a large-scale war. I think that could absolutely work. And I think Robin Hobb writing the book, I would actually have enjoyed it. So, yeah, I don't have a ton more on that. I think Robin Hobb could absolutely do that. That's a kind of story I could see her telling. And I think it would work. All right, Peter V. Brett, writing Lightbringer. Interesting. So Brett's got a bit less of like kind of a humor, and I haven't read the Demon Cycle, which it kind of has it doesn't really have a hard magic system. It's kind of in the middle, I guess. So with the magic system once again being such a big part of Lightbringer, I feel like you could probably do something kind of comparable. I feel like Brett's 5-book series wrapped up better than Week's 5-book series. So I think that would be kind of an even run. I'd be willing to see the other do each other's book series and see how it turned out. Because with Weeks writing the early Demon Cycle books, they probably would be liked more, and with Brett finishing up Lightbringer, I think it would probably be liked more. So that's an interesting one. I think they probably could do each other's works and maybe switch off and have it still work. It'd be different, and the style would be different, but I think it could work. All right. James Eilington, author of Lycanus, writing the Prydane Chronicles. So that was by Lloyd Alexander, who I talked earlier. Yeah, I think that could work. Eilington with Lycanus was kind of one of those series where I do think he had a lot of big ideas and maybe should have started writing like shorter works a little bit first to try and get some in, but I had a lot of fun with Lycanus. It does have its flaws, but it was a fun series. And I really enjoyed it and the way things kind of tied in. The characters, everything in it, it did feel like it read a little young. And so I think it's something he could definitely go and write more of a kid's series. I think is something that he could do with the fantasy elements. So I think that would work out. I definitely think with the way he wrote, honestly, like writing some shorter like kids books, getting a little bit more used to it could have been good because, like I said, I don't think he's a bad author at all, and I really, really enjoyed Lycanus. It was a blast. I've been read that trilogy. I had a really fun time with it, but you could tell it was a newer author at the same time. But I think it could work. I feel like I'm either very okay or very not okay with a lot of these. All right, R.F. Kuang. What series are you writing here? Let's find out. With Dragonlance Chronicles. I can't believe the authors I put in to joke about with my unpopular opinions. I feel like it'd be a lot more annoying, but Dragonlance Chronicles being kind of just a D&D campaign, knowing the fact that many other authors wrote in that world and that was kind of a thing. I mean, yeah, she could probably write that. It's not the most difficult stuff to write. as well. I'm assuming I'd hate the main character and have a lot of problems with it, but I feel like she could do it. So I'm really sad that the authors I picked like that end up getting a series they could absolutely write. It's not fair. It wasn't supposed to be that way. All right, here in the end here. Michael R. Fletcher writing. If this is Discworld, I'm gonna go nuts. Nope. Realm of the Elderlings. Ooh. See, this is another one where it'd be so hard to picture literally anyone writing Realm of the Elderlings. And it's also because of the fact that it's such a different style. Now, Realm of the Elderlings, especially, the Fitz books, which are my favorites, are first person, have a lot of introspection, and Obsidian Path, the series I put in here with Fletcher, first person, a lot of introspection. So I think it's something that he could potentially do, but I don't see Fletcher writing that long of a series. With books that long, I feel like he moves a little bit quicker than that. So kind of like going the whole big series like that, which, granted, Hobb gets pretty dark with plenty of stuff too, so definitely there. I feel like that's another one where it would just look incredibly different because his style is very different, but it would be interesting to see like a really long interconnected series from him, so maybe that's something that we'll get. But trying to imagine anyone else writing Realm of the Otherlings is just really hard because it's another thing where just Hobb's style is very unique. And so it's just like trying to think of anybody. I feel like whichever author had to come up with Realm of the Otherlings was not going to have a good time. I think it'd be interesting to see Fletcher do something like that too, but once again, the style different, just Robin Hobb being Robin Hobb. I don't know about that one. All right. Joe Abercrombie, getting probably some other series that's perfect for him. That's been how we've been going. Writing Discworld. I feel like Discworld is another one that most people are going to lose to. See, Abercrombie, I feel like Abercrombie thinks he's funnier than he is. Like, he's got some good humor in his books, a lot of it like dry, dark humor, which can work really well for me. Like the heroes, a lot of the humor in the heroes, besides Gorst, most of the other humor worked really, really well for me. So, like, I feel like him writing kind of his take on like a sarcastic fantasy parody is like doing it Discworld style wouldn't work, but when you look at his books in general being kind of a sarcastic parody of fantasy as it is, like it's more in his wheelhouse than it would sound like. And with the standalones, I felt like they were kind of like genre parodies, like you think of like with a movie, like Best Served Cold was like, back in the day, they'd make those parodies that were just parodying a bunch of movies in the same genre, like Not Another Teen Movie, or like the This, That, and the Other Thing, or Meet the Spartans, like all these like just spoof movies. Like that's kind of what the standalones were, with Best Served Cold just being like, we're gonna do all the revenge tropes. The heroes being like kind of like the military battle type of movies, the feel that had. And Red Country, I know is supposed to be a Western. I haven't read that one yet though, so I think Abercrombie's already given us his sarcastic parody kind of thing, and it's definitely not going to work with Discworld kind of style though. All right, nearly done. Tad Williams writing. I've got barely any left. I still can't grab them. Thomas Covenant. Ooh, that's interesting. I was really wondering which author was gonna get Thomas Covenant, because it's definitely a different style. Now, Donaldson has some beautiful prose. Williams does too. So from a prose standpoint, I think it works. I don't think Tad Williams would have told the story in the same way. And so the way Donaldson did it, I think worked. And it's not always the most popular because of some of the things, but I think it did work overall. So I think it would have been a little bit of a different story, but I think Williams would have the chops to write that kind of story. I don't know that he would, and Thomas Covenant is such a different and unique kind of story, even for like a portal fantasy. Very, very different. And the way it came together was phenomenal. But I think I think Tad Williams could write something like that if he wanted to, based on his writing style. So that could work. All right. Robert Jordan writing Red Queen's War / The Broken Empire. Ooh, it would have been a lot longer. I know, like, originally, Jordan did want to add some more sci-fi elements into Wheel of Time. And Warrior of Altai definitely had kind of the in a world with some like sci-fi elements in it. So that's kind of what I think of with Lawrence, because his books that I've read are fantasy, but they definitely have some sci-fi feel to them as well, with what I've read so far. So from that perspective, I think it could work. Their styles are very, very different. Lawrence is not big on like the really big descriptive prose at all, whereas obviously Jordan is. So, I mean, if Jordan was writing the series, Jordan is much more fade to black kind of a person when it comes to things happening than Lawrence, and so I don't think that would work. I just don't think that would be a story that Jordan would write. Very, very clashing style, and I don't feel like the story that Lawrence was telling would work being told by Robert Jordan. It would have to be a completely different one. So obviously, I love Robert Jordan, but yeah, I don't know that that's gonna work out. All right, last ones. We have Steven Erikson writing Lycanus. So that would also be an incredibly different book. I feel like that's honestly, if Steven Erikson writing Lycanus, I feel like really could work, because a lot of the things in Lycanus I feel like could be adapted into a more adult, in exploring it longer, some of the themes, that kind of thing, into the Erikson style. I think it would have been longer. It wouldn't have just been a trilogy with Erikson, because I feel like it was a trilogy, and they're pretty big books overall, but I feel like Erikson was slowed down, taking his time a little bit more and woven it in, but kind of having like these convoluted storylines that come back to each other. I think that would be interesting. So it's, despite my complicated history with Malazan, Steven Erikson's style, I think it would be really interesting to read him writing other people's stories, like seeing what he would have done with it. So yeah, okay, we're ending on a good one. I think that would work. I think that'd be really interesting. But so those are my author series mix-ups. This was a lot of fun, so definitely let me know what your favorite ones were, or if there was one that you were hoping to find too as well. I'm not gonna like tag anybody specifically, since this is more of a challenge and not like full on a tag. But I would love to watch some more of these. So if you've done it, let me know in the comments, and if you want to do it, definitely make sure to tag me on like Discord to let me know, because this was really fun to do, and I'm excited to watch some more of these videos as well. But that is the end of this one, so make sure to give the video a like. If you enjoyed it, check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Do It Discord. If you want to chat books, whether any of these authors or series or other books or really anything at all, is a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. Of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.